Chapter 1. Your habits may be the difference between your successes and failures. Studies showed that 40% of the things we do daily do not require us to make any decisions, but they are habits that we have formed over time. While we like to think that we have control over all our actions, our habits control us to a large extent. The good news is that habits are not permanent. You can change a bad habit even though it may take a lot of time and effort. Change might not happen quickly, and it isn't always simple. But with patience and hard work, almost any habit can be changed. Charles Duhigg. Duhigg's work for the media in Baghdad piqued his interest in the study of habits. In his opinion, the U.S. military is a huge experiment into habit formation because they perform the same actions every day. He noticed that the soldiers were precise in their actions because of the training they received daily, and this led him to research habits and how they can change our lives. Nobody can change your habits for you. You have to choose desirable habits each day. Keep reading to find out more information from Duhigg's research and how you can control your life by changing your habits. Chapter 2. Habits ensure your brain does not expend too much energy. The brain is a complex organ, but it's always looking for ways to try and save you energy and effort. This is where habits come in because they are done without much thought. Once a habit is formed, the decision-making related to that habit slows down and stops. If you decide to change the habit, the process of learning begins again. Researchers in the Cognitive Sciences Department of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology conducted studies on sedated rats. These studies were aimed at learning more about habit formation and the important processes involved. These studies began in the 1990s when the researchers developed an interest in a deep part of the brain called the basal ganglia. Every part of the brain controls specific activities in the body. The basal ganglia are located close to the brainstem and is one of the most primitive parts of the complex brain. Although it's almost the same size as a golf ball, researchers have been trying to fully understand its multiple functions for years. The research on the rats revealed many pieces of information that were previously unknown. Research showed that the basal ganglia play a vital role in understanding and remembering patterns and informing the behaviors linked to them. It is also the storage house for habits during waking and sleeping hours. Did you know? Our habits make up about 40 to 95% of what we do on a daily basis. Chapter 3. Habits are not magical. They are formed through a process. Before a habit is formed, it has to go through 3 steps: the habit loop, a cue, a routine, and a reward. These steps not only form a habit, but also provide the necessary motivation needed from the start of habit formation to the end. The cue is a trigger, something that pushes your brain into autopilot, and then also decides the habit to use at that time. A routine can be physical, mental, or emotional, and it is the way your brain recognizes a habit after a few trials. The last step is the reward. This determines whether or not an action deserves to become a habit. The brain responds faster to a trigger only when it deems it worthwhile. A cue can be anything in a person's environment, but the routine can either be complicated or easy. In the end, the reward usually feels pleasant to the physical body, and this forces your brain to take note of this good feeling. Imagine you're driving home from work and your children are hungry, but you don't know what to make for dinner. You see a McDonald's around and you think it's the perfect solution, so you buy some food. Due to your tight schedule, eating out eventually becomes a habit, even when you didn't intentionally make that decision. You'll keep going back to McDonald's because your brain recognizes the reward of not having to cook dinner, a fast meal which is also cheap. Whenever you see the McDonald's sign from that point, you'll be tempted to go back. This is all part of the habit loop. Did you know the most common bad habit is nail biting? Chapter 4. It is possible for your organization to cash in on your habits. How can an organization make money from your habits? It's quite simple. They only need to give you a cue that encourages you to find a reward. This is how the biggest companies in the world function. After that, the habit is firmly formed over time and you keep going back to purchase their goods. Take Quaker Oats for example. This breakfast cereal promised to give 24-hour energy boosts if people ate it in the morning. There are also medicines that are supposed to clear up skin conditions or even get rid of joint pain. But you have to take them as soon as you notice the symptoms, and then continuously after that. These are triggers that form a routine. The reward is that you feel and look better, something everyone wants. Before you know it, you're buying all their products and seeing no results. Consumer psychologists report that advertising is a technique that prompts purchases. When you see an advert, your brain starts to crave a reward associated with a trigger, and this is what is called neurological craving. Researchers at New Mexico State University conducted a study in 2002. They wanted to find out why people keep exercising regularly, even when it isn't easy. Their findings showed that it all came down to the reward that the brain craves. 92% of the participants reported that they carried on exercising as a habit because of how it made them feel. Companies often add something to their products to give you proof that it is working. This strengthens the reward and habit association. Companies also make predictions based on your habits. They have algorithms that monitor your Google searches, and some stores like Target make huge profits from their predictions. Also, habits can easily influence your decisions when shopping. For instance, a study showed that 5% of purchases were decided upon in the store, and not because customers had planned to do so. In this case, even when the buyers wanted to save cash, their habits did not let them. Chapter 5. It is easier to change old habits than to form new ones. It might sound unbelievable when you hear that it is far easier to change a habit that you already have than to form a completely new one. But it is the truth. The reason is that you already have some information about the old habit in your brain. The cue, the routine, and the reward. All you need to do is to change certain parts rather than start from the beginning. There is one golden rule of habit change. You can't destroy a bad habit. You can only change it. Charles Duhigg. You can change bad habits by changing the routine in order to get the same reward. This way of changing habits is useful for the treatment of alcoholism, obesity, and many other mental health conditions. It has been used in treatment for things like alcoholism, obesity, and even treating OCD. The willingness to change is necessary to form new, positive habits. For example, consider a person who habitually bites their nails. They are given a card to mark whenever they feel the urge to bite their nails. The more they mark the card, the more conscious of the habit they'll become. They were instructed to change the routine whenever they felt the urge to bite their nails. Now they had to put their hands in their pockets or sit on them. To make up for the physical sensation that nail biting gave, they were told to rub their arm instead. From this example, a habit was changed by identifying the cue, changing the routine, and substituting the sensation. Chapter 6. To be successful, you need to work on increasing your positive habits. Keystone habits are habits that matter more than others, either in life or in business. They influence how you work, sit, live, spend money, and how you communicate. These are the basics from which everything else grows. For instance, Michael Phelps would not have become a multiple Olympic champion without keystone habits. These habits also explain why certain students in college do better than others, seemingly against all odds. Self-discipline is one of the keystone habits, and it includes not being late, working hard, overcoming obstacles. This is a keystone habit that is extremely positive and one which will see you through life towards success. Self-discipline pushes you to achieve your goals by doing the right things at the right time. According to Duhigg, a boy named Travis Leach witnessed his father's overdose at the age of 9. Travis had many tough experiences, but disciplined himself enough to become a manager of 2 large Starbucks stores. Although he had a rough childhood, Travis didn't allow that to determine his future. He worked hard and remained disciplined. Hard work and self-discipline will take you places that negative habits have never been. Successful people know this trick, so they cultivate good habits and follow through with them diligently. Chapter 7. One person's habits can inspire change that will last for generations. Societal or communal habits can also influence the way individuals think and behave. Consider Rosa Parks, the woman who started a movement many years ago. Back then, it was normal for black people to sit at the back of the bus while whites occupied the front seats. One fateful day, Rosa refused to move to the back of the bus, and this marked the start of the civil rights movement. This singular act built the foundation for the equality movements we see today. This is why movements and habits are very interwoven. They are dependent on each other. Rosa Parks' refusal to change seats wasn't just about disobedience to the rules. It was about destroying wrong social patterns. When movements begin, it is due to the already existing social habits. Everyone in the community plays a role as it affects everybody in the long run. It fosters unity and communal growth and encourages participants to develop new habits. Habits aren't always negative. They can kickstart social movements which create major change. So there's no point in waiting for someone else to change something you are not comfortable with. You can start a movement to effect that change. Many things are wrong in our communities, and we cannot wait for the government to fix all of them. When you see a negative social habit, challenge it. Be sure to educate yourself first and get people in your community involved. Together, we can change the world and override the system one positive habit at a time. Did you know? Rosa Parks was arrested for not moving from her seat on the bus on December 1st, 1955. Chapter 8. Changing habits is an individualistic process. You decide what you want. There are so many different ways to change a habit, but the most complicated part is that every individual is different. What works for you might not work for your sibling. You just have to search for what works for you. Habits are also different. For instance, changing your communication style is different from changing how you prioritize your office tasks. In the same vein, giving up smoking is different from giving up carbs in your diet. All the different niches in your life have habits that you formed over the years, but they can be changed. Consider all your habits as one big puzzle. You can always find the missing piece and make a complete picture. Learning a new habit is specific to the person in question, as there is no one-size-fits-all process. There are 4 main steps you need if you are ready to change a habit. Firstly, you need to identify the routine that forms the habit. As discussed in an earlier chapter, the routine is the second part of habit formation. You need to identify the routine for the selected habit. Secondly, experiment with different rewards. This means you can change the negative reward for something positive, for example. If you're trying to change a smoking habit, you can replace smoking with exercise. Another step is to work on the habit cue, first habit formation step, and see if you can tweak it. So, for instance, you can set an alarm that reminds you it's time to exercise. Finally, just go for your plan. The longer you sit thinking about it, the more you keep the negative habit. Just do it. Conclusion. Everyone is made up of habits that they've built over time. The way you go about your day from start to finish is a reflection of your habits. If you notice you are not as productive as you want, or the people around you keep complaining about you, you might want to change some bad habits. As difficult as this sounds, it is possible. Large organizations already use your habits to make sales by making predictions and monitoring the algorithms. You too can do the same for yourself. Turn your habits in your favor. All you need to make more sales at work or have a happier home might be a few habit changes. Identify them and start the process. People do not live in vacuums. They live in communities that can benefit from their habits. Choose to use your habits positively. Whenever there needs to be a change, choose to contribute to that change. Like Rosa Parks, you might just be starting a movement. Your habits are powerful and can control your life. Choose positive habits and watch your life change for the better. Try this. Think carefully about the products you regularly purchase and identify whether your purchasing habits are being manipulated by companies using your habits to their own benefit. You can list the pros and cons of buying each product and judge for yourself.